Hello, this is Roger. I'm going to go through your 12-week case study today. This is part of your consultation. It's clearing up the final part of that. So you have your level 3 consultation with your client, during which you do your fitness tests and your postural assessment. Then after that, you'll go off and you write a plan for the client, and we're going to go through how to write that plan right now. Okay, so in front of me, I have here the template that you find on the YMCA eFit Learning site. This is the template that you'll be using. So during your consultation, obviously you will have got their name, age and gender, so fill out all the boxes on there, please. When it comes down, though, to client lifestyles and hobbies, this is where you need to get as much information as possible. So we do appreciate that on the consultation, you may not have got as much information as you possibly could have got, but we need quite a lot of information to be put into this box here that tells you all about the client, what they do daily, and how their daily life impacts their family life as well. So in this box, just a quick resume of what we want to see here. It is about what is their current job role, if they're working, if they're a student, what are they studying, how many hours a week is it, how many hours a week daily is it, what it involves as well. Is it sedentary, is it active, is it very active, how any study might impact on family life, how work might impact on family life. And we need to be talking about family life as well. So children, pets, marital status, how far they live from work, what they do when they're not at work. Okay, if they're not working, then what do they do to fill their day? Okay, do they have young children? Do they have children that have left home? Have they got lots of spare time? And then sort of weekends, what are they doing during the weekends to socialize? What are they doing in the evenings? Do they have a social life? How does that impact on their life? Do they have other hobbies that might impact on their life too? Some people might have very active jobs and very active hobbies as well. Some people might have very sedentary jobs and active hobbies, and vice versa. But if you can get as much information about your client in there as possible, that just means that you know that when you write the program, you're going to get the right prescription for them. Try not to write, in fact, let's not write NA in any box, please. NA means not allowed in this instance. Going down the page, we then have the description of exercise and physical activity. I would go back, if I were you, go back at least 5 years. And in the boxes where they're asking, it says apply fit where appropriate. YMCA Awards would like you to put the fit principle in there. So there's an example here: frequency, intensity, time and type. You might need to do several different ones. So it might be, for example, that they do some Pilates, core training. They might do some resistance weight training. So write a different description for each one. So it could be frequency, intensity, time and type. It could be frequency 3 times a week, intensity moderate, time could be 30 minutes, and the type could be stretch and relaxation. Then there might be another one which could be frequency is twice a week, intensity could be 70 to 90% of a maximum heart rate, time could be 60 minutes, and the type could be running or swimming. Okay, so some people do quite a lot of activity, so make sure you get it all covered in there again, because that will help you when you come to put the program together. You know what they can already do, what they're capable of, and you know what they might not be doing and what they need to be doing as well. Going over the past exercise and activity levels, again, go back 5 years, and again, apply the same thing: frequency, intensity, time and type. And again, it just gives you an idea of what they've done in the past as well. Okay, it comes down to client activity likes and dislikes. That makes sense. Fill them all out. Make sure you get as many in there as you possibly can. Then you need to look at the PAR-Q and just delete or highlight yes or no in the boxes where it asks. And then you need to make a statement. So where it says analysis of the PAR-Q response and actions, if applicable, you need to make sure that you make some statement in that box. A statement could be quite as simple as the client answered no to all questions, so no further action required. Good. All right, we come on to the test results. Okay, it says here appropriate to the client's needs and goals. And again, YMCA Awards, though, do want you to put a test result in each section, please. So you need to have each section have at least one test result, and you might have more than one depending upon the client's goals, obviously, as well. Okay. What we need you to see also is when you get down to the cardiovascular fitness box, it says Astrand bike test. Not many health clubs have the Astrand bikes anymore, so you probably won't ever come across that. But so don't worry about that one. But make sure you have a CV test in that box as well, obviously. Okay, we're moving through. range of motion, muscular fitness, balance or proprioception test, whatever test goes in there, please add it in there. If you're doing what's called the stalk test, remember it's going to be both legs, not just one leg. All right. You then analyze all the tests, so it asks for a results analysis, analyze all the tests, state what's good or not good about them, and also look at norms charts. Some of them won't be against norm charts, obviously, but state what's good about them compared to norms charts. Okay, and then in there, make a comment about how you're going to make these test results applicable to the program that you're writing for the client. Functional ability in here. How flexible are they, for example? What is their CV ability? Are they daily pain-free? And in here also, you could write a statement about any past injuries that the client might have had, and do they flare up as well? Are they in flare-up now? Is the client reticent to exercise due to a past injury or a present injury as well? Okay, and then we move on to the postural and alignment. So you will have done a postural analysis with the client. That would have been done during your consultation. So in this box here, you just need to write down the deviances that you saw and what you will apply in the program to try to turn that posture deviance around. This won't happen overnight, obviously, so just a statement in here, what you saw and what you will be doing. It could be stretching, it could be certain exercises to alleviate the posture that you saw, okay? Client's needs, you're now looking at the client's current activity levels, going back to the client profile. So in here, for example, does the client need more flexibility training, more CV training, more resistance training? Do they need more core training? Do they need, in fact, to have a day off from exercise, or do they need something to help them de-stress? Okay, just be as detailed as you possibly can in there. Do they need motivation to exercise? Do they need someone to be with them to exercise? Are they the sort of person that might find it a struggle to be actually going to the gym on their own? Okay. Moving down, client's readiness to participate. Discuss the client's motivation here. Discuss how and why they want to be doing the program with you, but discuss also how you might actually overcome any possible obstacles that the client throws at you. Okay, discuss here how committed they are to the program, basically. The SMART goals. Now you need to make a statement in the top of the box. First of all, in the headline it says, please indicate below if another party other than the personal trainer and client is required for goal setting, and please give the reason for their involvement. This very often gets missed because it's in the heading, so just make a statement there, and you can make that in the first long-term goal box. Okay, so just make a statement there. If there's no other person involved, just write no other person required. However, it could be a physiotherapist might be needed to be involved, it might be a nutritionist, it could be an osteopath or a chiropractor or someone along the line of thought. Okay, and then long-term goals. It's got 3 to 12 months here. Please make a statement here. Is it 3 months? Is it 12 months? It could be shorter. It doesn't have to be 3 to 12 months. It could be a little bit longer as well. Okay, this is just an example, but make sure your goals are smart. Okay, so the long-term goal goes in that box, and at the bottom box underneath that, review the date. So at the end of any period or during the goal stage, you would say to the client, this is what I'm going to intend to do in 4 weeks' time, which is going to be this date. We are going to do this to test success and progress. Make sure, though, that your goal is SMART. Remember, it needs to be specific, measurable, agreed or achievable, realistic, and give it a time frame. So it could be they want to increase a lift on a deadlift, for example. So if that's the case, then please state what the deadlift weight will be in the long term. Don't just put, for example, to increase CV fitness or to increase a deadlift lift, because that won't be specific enough. Make sure it's quantifiable, yeah, so people can understand it. Medium term, that speaks for itself. This is related to the long term. Okay, this is just the next stage, if you like. So what you'll do, in actual fact, you'll write your long-term goal, and then you'll go down the page to the short term. The short-term goal will be the first period of that long-term goal that you need to be writing in there, and it has to relate directly to that long-term goal, please. So again, going back to the example that I gave, if they want to increase a deadlift and maybe given them a weight, then what do you want to see in the short-term goal related to that deadlift weight? Okay, please don't write something in there that says something along the lines of get the client used to using the gym or used to deadlifting. That won't be a smart long-term, that won't be a SMART goal related to the long-term. Review dates as before, so just make sure you put them in there. Basically every box needs to have something written in it. Okay, Barriers to achieving goals. So if the client tells you that they can't do something for whatever reason, write it in here, and you need to come and think of the strategy to try and overcome that barrier. And it would be something that you agreed with the client as well. Okay, so what barriers might be apparent, and how can you, or you and the client, overcome those barriers? And then identifying activities that the client can put into their lifestyle that could complement the gym program and assist them in achieving their goals. So what can they do daily, if you like, to help complement their training regime? It could be wanting to stretch their hamstrings every evening for 30 seconds, for example. Okay. Make sure your names go on all boxes. So ask the learner name and the date. So make sure you put your names there. YMCA awards are quite strict. If there's not a name on a document, sometimes they won't allow it to pass through because it doesn't really prove that it's the client's or the student. During your consultation, you will have done a postural assessment. So all the notes that you have for your postural assessment during that stage go onto the next box here. Okay, so fill out all the boxes. Note that no one will be perfectly aligned, so please don't write in there, for example, everything aligned. That won't be the case. You will have written something in the client consultation, so that goes in all the boxes, and you must make some form of recommendation as well where it asks for them. So it could be, for example, shoulders are really in front of the plumb line, so I'm going to work on flexibility of the pecs and stretching the chest, and work on drawing the shoulders back and down and strengthening the lower traps and rhomboids. Okay. If you make those comments and recommendations, remember they need to go later on into the program as well. Remember, every box needs to be filled out. Please don't put NA. Moving down to the detailed session plans, you will teach 3 sessions to your client from your plan. You'll teach them a program card. The program card needs to have the client's name on it, and it also asks for the goal stage. So detailed session 1 obviously will be from the short-term goal stage. Okay, so goal stage relates to short, medium, or long-term. Please don't write in there, for example, arms day or strength day. It has to be related to the goals that you've written previously in the plan. Obviously, you can't write the assessor's name, but where it says environment and resources, you need to put down in there where you actually did the session, i.e. the gym, and what resources. So it might just be free weights, battle ropes, and skipping ropes, for example, but what you wanted to use and where you did it, and then obviously put the date on there as well. Now, everything in this card needs to be really, really detailed. So if you gave the card to the client, they should be able to fill it out without any question whatsoever. So it should be completely foolproof. It's rather like Delia Smith, How to Cook an Egg. She'd give you the book and you'd read it and you'd cook the egg, wouldn't you? And your program card's very, very much like that. So warm up is asking for the overview of content right in there, what you want to do to warm up, how do you want to mobilize, how do you want to pre-stretch, make sure it is a warm-up though. Make sure it's not things like sprinting on the spot and jumping jacks and burpees, because they're not warm-ups, but make sure it's a relevant warm-up to the client. It then asks for the equipment and duration. Now, if you're not using equipment, if it's a body weight warm-up, then obviously you just put in here body weight warm-up and put down how long it's going to be for. Remember, in the overview, you'll have written down what you're going to be doing in there anyway. So these will all relate as well. And then the level and the speed, again, level and the speed of machines. If it's body weight, you can get away with writing down just moderate level, moderate speed if you like. And RPE, heart rate, put both of those in there. So the RPE, what that will be on a scale of 6 to 20 or 1 to 10, and heart rate, obviously percentage of a heart rate max. Remember, heart rate in the warm-up shouldn't be going any higher than around 60 to 65% of the maximum heart rate. Then you need to put adaptations or alternatives in there as well. So, for example, you could state that if you wanted to, this could be an alternative to the way to warm up, or it could be that you could adapt a body weight warm up by saying, actually, now and again, let's adapt this by using some bands or a foam roller or something very similar, or battle ropes, for example. Again, every box needs to have something in it. Make sure that fill the program card out and then give it to someone and just say, would you be able to understand that? Okay. Cardiovascular training. equipment and approach. So whatever you use to do some CV training and the approach that you used, i.e. the CV systems, was it continuous, interval or fartlek training you did here? Program timings, how long for? Now for the intervals, you'd need to put in here the work to rest ratio as well. Level and speed, obviously on the machine as well, how fast it is and what levels you're going to be going at. And if you're doing intervals, remember the levels and the speeds will keep changing as well, so make sure you put those in there. RPE, heart rate, again, put both of those. And remember, we want the work to rest ratio, so what is the heart rate or RPE at rest and what it is at the higher intensity, and that covers with fartlek as well. Okay, and again, think about how you could adapt this. What are the alternatives to it? We do understand also that the program cards are related to clients' goals, so sometimes not all sections will need to be filled out. Definitely you'll fill out the warm-up because they're always going to warm up, hopefully. However, if they're not doing any cardiovascular training on this particular day, you need to make sure that you make a statement in each box saying why they're not doing it. Again, don't just leave it empty and don't just put NA. So, for example, you could write in cardiovascular training, client not doing cardiovascular training this time due to X, Y, Z. Okay, resistance training. Not every box needs to be filled out on this, but again, because it's all related to the client's goals. So whatever exercises you've given them related to their goals. So if I go back to the deadlifting goal, as an example, obviously you'd put a deadlift in the exercise. Okay, we want to see the resistance in here. It's going to have to be, please, percentage of a rep max and also the actual weight that you want them to use. Okay, if it's body weight, obviously put down body weight. Okay, reps speaks for itself. Relevant to the client's goals as well. So if they've got a strength goal, obviously the reps will be much lower. How many sets do you want to do and the rest period between each sets, and the training system in the box here, i.e. is it trisets, ascending pyramid, is it a drop set? Please don't write in here multiple sets, because that doesn't mean anything. If it's basic sets, right, basic sets obviously, but be specific with the training systems there so that the assessor and also the client, if they were going to use it, could understand it and know exactly how they're going to be doing it. Okay, adaptations and alternatives, again, how you can change it if you needed to. For example, if someone came to the gym and the gym was closed, or that area of the gym was closed, what could they do instead that still meet the goals? Remember, not all of those boxes will need to be filled out. You don't have to. Cardiovascular training too, same as before, same as previous. Incorporating pulse slurring, so in there you need to put down how you would bring the heart rate down as well. Cardiovascular training might just be actual fact a little rewarm before you go off and do the core stability and the stretching anyway. If you're not using it, make a statement in the box where it says equipment and approach, say why you're not using it. Core stability training, 2 boxes here, 2 exercises. Name the exercises. Position, is it lying? Is it standing? Are they supine? Are they prone? Are they on the ball? Are they on the foam roller? Length of hold and the rest, so how long they're going to be doing it for. If you do it more than once, then obviously put a rest period in there. And then again, same as before, adaptations and alternatives. What could I do to change this if we needed to? You've got other functional training as appropriate to the client. Something will be going in here. So add something in here. Not all the exercises need to be filled out, but make sure there's something in at least one box there. Again, the position, what it is. Are they standing, lying, on their side? Are they sitting? Same with length of hold and sets and rest again, and adaptations are alternatives. Flexibility. Okay, this is your cool down. So it's good practice to make sure that you stretch absolutely every body part that's being worked in the main workout. Please, if they've done a full body workout, you need to stretch all those body parts. If they've done a chest and legs workout, you need to stretch the chest and legs. Please don't just stretch the legs. It's good practice to remember, take that flexibility back. Okay, so muscle stretched position, again, standing, lying supine, lying prone, seated, hanging even for stretching. And then you've got the type, the length of hold. So, for example, maintenance, PNF. It asks for static there. you can write in there static PNF, static maintenance, for example, how long you're going to be holding it for, and then obviously the adaptations or alternatives again. It could be using a foam roller, it could be using a stretch band as appropriate. Again, not all of those boxes need to be filled out, but make sure you are stretching the body parts that have been worked, definitely. Now, you're going to have 3 program cards. These are all going to relate to the client's goals. You might not need to fill out all areas of the program cards. However, you must make a statement as to why you did not need to. Remember, please do not write NA. Now, program card number 1 will be the first one that you teach. This is how it works. You teach that session, then your client gives you some feedback on it and you evaluate it. Okay, so you've got the evaluation sheets here. Scroll down. Okay. So session number 1, your client gave you some feedback about the plan. Just change that spelling mistake there. Could be positive, it could be negative. If they said it was good, state why it was good. Okay. And then session 1, you have to evaluate yourself as well. So in terms of, could the client understand you? Were you motivational? Were you overly assertive? Did you sort of belittle the client sometimes? Did you think that they didn't understand your instruction? Did you think that you were clear enough or not clear enough? Okay. And then you have to evaluate your own skills, develop your own skills based around the feedback that you've been given from your client. Okay. However, I'm going to go back to the 2 previous boxes. So session 1 on this one here, comment on the effectiveness of your exercises, and session 1, I got following feedback from the client. This is relating to the first program card that you filled out. The client gave you some feedback. It might not all be brilliant. Okay, there might be some things you need to change. So session 2 is going to be as a result of that feedback that you've been given. It might be, you generally always tend to find that the first program card is either too short or too long, so you have to sort of cut bits out of it perhaps. So session 2 is roughly the same as card 1, but there are some changes because you have evaluated it. Some things went well, some things didn't go so well. It might be, for example, that you did it in the free weights room and the client said they felt really intimidated in the free weights room. They don't think they can go in there again. So it might be that this card, now you change all the resistance and move out into somewhere else. Okay, but you're going to write another plan that's going to be based around the evaluation from the first program card. Remember, it will not be exactly the same. It might be that you even found that perhaps your CV training was too hard for them, so you might need to make it easier this time. Okay, but make sure that you write another plan based around feedback that you've been given. So I can't highlight enough that you need to get this feedback from the client. Sometimes the cards are just the same as, they're all 3 cards are just the same. That's not going to help you with a pass. So make sure there are some changes on there. And it will be a little bit of progression, basically, because you've changed it for whatever reason, haven't you? Okay, it could be too easy initially, it could be too hard. All right. Same thing applies, though. Everything on there that you do relates to the client's goals. If you're not filling out a box, then make a statement as to why you didn't need to do it. Make sure that you're doing it as the previous card, all the same guidelines. Then you go off, and the same thing applies. This is now session 2. The client gives you some feedback again on session 2 here. Same thing. They give you feedback about what you've just done with them. Get at least 5 points from them on their feedback, by the way. Otherwise, it's not going to give you much to work on. You then evaluate yourself again, your effectiveness of relationship, communication, prescription, the exercises. Okay. And again, it might not have gone to plan. Session 3, you're going to have to write another one. All right. Now, if it did go to plan, session 2 was brilliant and nothing wanted to be changed, that's perfectly fine. You now need to write another session, which could be from the medium-term goal. Okay. So if you need to change something, write another card that's going to be slightly different again based upon the feedback. Okay, If not, you can write a card that comes from the medium-term goal, all right? So that would go in the box where it says goal stage, where this relates to, just there, okay? All right. And again, every section of the card filled out, unless you don't need it, and make a statement, remember, as to why you might not be needing it. You then obviously go off and evaluate that card as well. Same thing, but obviously you're not going to write another card after that. So you end up writing 3 program cards. You evaluate session 1, session 2, and session 3. Now, evaluations also, as we said earlier, you need to evaluate yourself. Okay, so where it says, with the information gathered from your client, your own evaluation of the sessions within the program, explain how you will review the personal training program and develop your own skills. This is quite important in terms of you. So you need to describe, first of all, how each session will change, how you'll review the whole program as you're working through. For example, you might say that I'll do a weekly catch up with the client. We'll do a weekly WhatsApp or something along those lines. And then you need to also write in there what you can do to make your skills even more effective for the next time that you teach. Okay, it's really important that you start to practice self-reflection. Really, you know when plans go really, really well. You also know when they don't go so well. And you always think, oh, that didn't go so well, so I won't do that like that this time. And that's the benefit of writing those cards in. If it didn't go so well, but you felt it wasn't going so well as well, you could change the program card as well. So make sure that you're being quite descriptive about your skills, which are already brilliant, of course, but your skills on how you can make them even better, and you can be better than the rest, so to speak. Okay, it's a good practice to start thinking about. You'll probably never write an evaluation after you've done this plan, of course, but you always know when something goes right or goes wrong. You always change it as appropriate. So just sort of start getting into the habit of self-reflection really after sessions, and always get feedback from the client. It's really, really important. That way you know you're doing it right. Make sure the client has signed the box. It says at the bottom here, I, the client, agree with the above changes to my next personal training session and agree that they are appropriate to my need. It's important that this is put there. You just have to put the client's name there. Electronic is fine, okay? If the name isn't added to that, then we can't pass the case study because we don't have proof. I know we don't really necessarily have the 100% proof, but you need some proof to say that the client has actually agreed to it and they did it, okay? YMCA Awards are quite strict on that. So make sure names go on every document as appropriate, and put the date obviously as well. Right, we come down to the client's, the 12-week program overview. Okay, client's name goes at the top, obviously. Now, listen very carefully to this. Weeks 1 to 4, you have written a program card, okay? So the first program card that you wrote was from the short-term goal. Whatever you wrote on the program card for warming up, for CV training, for resistance training, for core stability training, and for functional training and flexibility, i.e. your cool down, that all goes in to box 1 here, all right? So, for example, week program card number 1, warm up. How many times per week would the client warm up, do you reckon? 2 or 3, depending on, yeah? What would be the intensity of a warm-up? Well, we said earlier it was 60 to 65% of the maximum heart rate. How long is the warm-up going to be? You know, decide on there. Whatever you said on the program card goes in there, and how you did it. So if on the program card you've got a warm-up on the rowing machine, then you put rowing machine for type. Simple as that. CV training, same thing. How many times per week did they do the CV training? What was the intensity? So, for example, if the intensity of the CV training on the program card was 70% to 90% of a maximum heart rate, that will go in intensity. Time, if the program card had 60 minutes for CV training, that will go in time. And if the type was intervals or fartlek or continuous, that goes in there, okay? It could be sprint intervals for a member as well. It could be cruise intervals, all right? So whatever goes on the program card goes in week 1 to 4 of the template. Resistance training. How many times per week do you want to do resistance training? Again, 2 to 3 would be good. What's the intensity here? Now, this needs to be measured with percentage of a rep max and again with the actual weight as well. So again, look at your program card. What you've got on there goes in intensity. How long do you want the resistance to be for? So on the program card, how long was the resistance? And then name the systems in type that you use. So the ones you've got on the program card will go in type here. So the approach or system that you've got there. So for the program card had try sets and drop sets, then obviously type will have try sets and drop sets. Core stability training, same thing. How many times per week were they going to be doing it? The intensity. Now this one's quite difficult. So to measure the intensity for this one, you can just get away with overload, okay? Or you could put that there, overload, or it could be to tremble or shake. All right, so never go to complete fail with your core stability training. So overload is good, or tremble to shake. Time, how long for, and that's the whole element of core stability training. And obviously name the exercises that you used in type here, okay? Moving down, functional. So in here, whatever exercise you've got in the functional training area goes in there. So frequency, how many times per week do you want to do it? Intensity, okay, whatever you had on there. So for example, intensity for functional flexibility would probably be moderate intensity. And then time, how long you spent doing it, and type, name the exercises. It's also asking for flexibility in here. So what we need to see in here is PNF stretching. Okay, so what PNF stretch did you use in here? How did you cool down, basically? Okay, if you're doing cool down in here as well, remember, put the intensity of a cool down to 60% of a maximum heart rate. Hopefully that's clear for you. So I'll say it one more time. So program card number 1, whatever you've got, you show it in weeks 1 to 4 of the 12-week template. Then weeks 5 to 8, this is where you now demonstrate your knowledge of progression. You will show how you progress each element of the program card. So program card number 1, you now show how you progress it across the weeks. For the warm-up, we said that the warm-up would be roughly 60 to 65% of a maximum heart rate. So the intensity might not change. In fact, it won't change. It'll stay exactly as it is, won't it? It won't go higher, otherwise it turns into a workout. So something else might change somewhere along the line, though. So it could be that you change the type, the time could change. So for example, let's say the type, maybe weeks 1 to 4, if you use the rowing machine, weeks 5 to 8, you could say I used walking on the treadmill. By weeks 9 to 12, you could say I'm now doing a body weight warm-up using a Viper, for example. Okay, so just show some small change for the warm-up, at least somewhere in there. Okay, make sure it's not all the same. Obviously, it needs to show a little bit of change, a little bit of progression, please. And it's you really sort of demonstrating what you know with regards to progression, but also it's a wish list for you. And this would be that you said to the client, we're going to do a 12-week program, for example, and this is what you're going to be doing for the first week. And the next week, I aim to be doing this with you, and then for the next few weeks we aim to be doing this with you, so they can see every month what you're planning to give them. Obviously it might go wrong, you might need to change it, but it's given them an insight into what to expect from you for the next 3 to 4 months, hasn't it? Okay, same with receive training. So just show how it progresses across the program, please. So weeks 5 to 8, what will change in terms of progression for the CV training? Will the frequency get more? Will the intensity go up? Will the timings change? Will the type change as well? Be very careful with this one, because remember, rules of progression really should be that if the intensity goes up, generally the timing might come down. So if you move on to sprint intervals, for example, you won't be expecting someone to do sprint intervals for 30 minutes, for example. Okay, so again, show your wish list of how you think it might progress as you go through the weeks. Be realistic, remember, but you should be able to cope with that, I'm sure. It's just, again, it's demonstrating your knowledge for progression more than anything else. Resistance training, same thing, whatever changes. Yes, so you've got your percentage of a rep max in intensity. That might not change depending on the client's goals. Okay, so it might just stay as it is. However, the systems need to change at least. So show how you would change what you have on program card number 1, how it'll move across the weeks when you're going to be working out with the client. So for example, a very, very basic one could be that program card number 1 had triceps on it, and then you've got to weeks 5, you've changed those triceps into giant sets, and you've also added the drop sets on there as well. Okay, just be realistic with it though, and remember, this is for you to show the client what you intended them to be doing after the first 4-week period is over. Same with core stability. Intensity might not change. The timings could change, and the type, well, the exercises used need to progress. So let's not say, for example, week 1 you did the plank, and then weeks 5 to 8 you've changed it to let's say hanging leg raises. That won't be progressing the plank, will it? So if you use the plank in weeks 1 to 4, show how you progress the plank across the next few weeks. And it could be you use a less stable base. So for example, week 1 to 4, the plank could be done on toes and elbows, and then weeks 5 to 8 you've progressed it to toes on a stability disc, elbows on the floor still, and weeks 9 to 12 you say you could progress it from toes and feet on a power plate, and the elbows are on a core ball. All right, just show how the exercise progresses. Be realistic, remember. Okay, functional, same thing. How does it progress across the weeks? Now for the PNF, you're going to name the PNF stretch. Okay, so give a name to it. I'm going to say PNF stretch the hamstrings. All right, now weeks 5 to 8, you might still be PNF stretching the hamstrings, but you might also change something about the functional training. You might change something about how you cool down a little bit. You might also actually stop PNF stretching the hamstrings when you get to weeks 9 to 12, and it might just turn into a maintenance stretch. You've shown how you progressed it, and it could be as a result of reaching a desired load on the sit and reach box, for example, if you're doing the hamstrings. But make sure you show some small progression in that box as well. Okay, remember, it should be that the client can see exactly what you want them to be doing over the next 3 to 4 months with you. Functional training, again, decide how many times per week they're going to be doing that, what the intensity is. The timing might change for it. Probably the intensity will stay the same, but just make sure that you name it and you show how things move across the page, across the months. If you've not done a particular aspect, you filled in the box, obviously, on the program card. We didn't need it for whatever reason, then obviously state that in these boxes here. However, I would suggest that everything on the template has to have something in it at least. Okay, so make sure that you have shown something in there. Then moving down, it's asking you why you have selected these for the first 4 weeks of the program. So you just have to state why you did the warm-up the way you did, why you did the CV training the way you did, why you did the resistance training the way you did, and why you did the core stability training the way you did, and why you did the functional training and the flexibility, the cool down the way you did. What is your reason for giving them the plank? What is your reason for giving them the warm-up on the row machine? You know, for example, okay? Be specific. Don't just put because the client likes it. State a bit more than just that. Okay, and then obviously, as you've progressed things, state why you've progressed it in the way you have. Why have you changed the warm up from a row machine to body weight, for example? Why have you changed from CV training to continuous training to fartlek training now? Okay. Why have you changed from basic sets to ascending pyramid? Why have you changed from dead bugs on the floor to dead bugs on a stability disc? Why have you changed from hamstring PNF to developmental PNF, for example? Just justify everything over the weeks. And again, it's just demonstrating your knowledge of progression really more than anything else. Be really, really detailed with all of that as well, please. Now, activities for daily living. A little while ago, we talked about what could you get the client to do to complement their gym program with you. Well, whatever you wrote in there can go in weeks 1 to 4, okay? And it could be you could add them a little bit more in there as well. You could ask them to do other activities. It could be getting them to, use the stairs more, for example, that sort of thing. Okay, so whatever you've got in weeks 1 to 4 goes in there. Then show how it progresses across weeks 5 to 8, and show how again it might progress across weeks 9 to 12. Aim to have at least 5 in weeks 1 to 4, okay, if you can, and then just show some progression. They don't all need to progress. Some of them might not. In fact, some of them might not be relevant by the time you get to week 9 to 12, okay? But make sure there is something that you can show that goes in there. Now remember, activities for daily living are not things like sprinting. That's not an activity for daily living. However, we can allow you to put in things there such as cycling with the children or whatever, walking with the dog more, that sort of thing, okay? Be realistic with it, basically. Look at your own life and think, okay, what can I do to be more active, perhaps, and then relate it to your client. I always think if you look at yourself first, you can sort of get a bigger picture of what you need to be asking your client, perhaps. Now, some people's clients are all really, really active already, so they might be doing quite a lot already. However, think their daily life, if they're doing a lot already, then maybe an activity for daily living could be taking 5 minutes out or 10 minutes out to meditate, to stretch, to relax, just have time out away from whatever they're doing that keeps them really, really active. Okay, so you can include meditation in there. You can include silly little things that you might think are silly. In fact, it could be including, take a 10-minute nap in the afternoon, if they can, of course. Not every job will allow you to do that sort of thing. All right, but just make sure that something goes in there related to the client, obviously, but look back at their current lifestyle and see what they're actually doing or not doing now. Okay. Exercises in other environments. Okay, so now you might have done at some point on the course, perhaps, or with your clients, some exercises that are not in the gym. So you might have gone to the park, you might have done a home workout, you might have done something at their office desk or something like that. So if you have, then just write down what you did in weeks 1 to 4. If you didn't do that, then just give the client some exercises that they can do that's not in the gym. So it needs to be an environment such as, it gives you an example there, the home, office, or outdoors. Okay, so put some exercises in there, and then same thing, show how they progress across from the weeks. Okay, so they progress by weeks 5 to 8 by this, and weeks 9 to 12 by this. Again, keep it realistic, I suppose, but it can be anything really, any exercise that you can do that's not in the gym. All right, so for example, you wouldn't expect someone to carry a 12k dumbbell to the park, so please don't write in there something like shoulder press dumbbells, 12k shoulder press with a dumbbell in the park, because that's not relevant, is it? So move down, 12-week program overview, and you've got your program rationale. Okay, now again, this is a bit of a wish list really. In here, how did you manage the program? How do you see yourself managing the program? Okay, so for example, you're writing roughly a 3-month program for the client. How will you manage that in terms of times per session? How will you manage it if the client doesn't turn up on time? What will you do if you don't turn up on time? Okay, you could write in here a little bit about what your cancellation policy is, i.e. they need to let me know within 24 hours. It could be that if you don't turn up, you give them a free session or something like that. Okay, you also need to write in here things such as, how do you measure success, for example. So you'll make a statement about perhaps, for example, in here you could make a statement about measuring relationships to goals and regular reviews. You might send text messages after each session, the day after, that sort of thing. Messaging day after, for example. Okay, but make sure that you fill that out enough that you can sort of show that you've thought about the program, really, why you did it the way you did, and what could happen given certain scenarios, if you like. Could be, the client has got quite a busy lifestyle already. How can you work the program in around that? It also asks as a program how it is particularly suited to your client. You might think it's a little bit obvious. However, it could be that you've said, well, the program is particularly suited. First of all, we did them early mornings because the client works during the day. They start working at 9 o'clock and they're very tired when they get home at 5 o'clock in the evening. They don't want to work out, so we've planned to work out at, say, 7:30 in the mornings. Okay, you could state also how its client is suited to the client's needs, that you added quite a lot of flexibility, and you did regular posture checks, you gave regular posture feedback, you gave them some activities that they could do when they're sitting at their desk. Okay, once you've filled all of that out, you've got the design record and feedback sheet that the assessor needs to fill out. Make sure your name goes at the top, please, and the date that you submit the casework. You can't fill out the assessor's name. You can't fill out the IQA's name. The IQA is the person that checks that the assessor is doing the job properly, so the internal quality assurer. If they did check that work, you probably wouldn't be contacted unless there was a reason for you to be contacted. So the assessor's name will go there, your name needs to go at the top there, and then PD1 down to PD11, this is the criteria that we're going to be following when we mark your case study. Okay, PD1 relates all the way through back to the very beginning. It relates back to the client lifestyle and the profile. Okay, and it relates to analysing the part Q, analysing the test results, making sure all the test results are there. Okay, so everything that you've got in there that you did in your consultation now needs to be shown in PD1 here. So the consultation that you did is very different to what this is. So although you might have passed the consultation when you did it, okay, this is actually putting everything into writing now. PD2 demonstrated how to apply the key principles of training. So again, relating everything to the client's goals here. So make sure that everything you do goes back to the client's goals, and again, demonstrating your knowledge of trying to progress something. All relevant components of fitness were built into the program. So this comes back to the program cards, and we said not every section of the program cards need to be filled out, obviously. If they need to be doing some cardiovascular training, obviously cardiovascular training will be in there, and that's what this refers to. PD4, suitable fitness training techniques for components of fitness based on experience and fitness level of the client. So here again, we're talking about giving some cardiovascular training, i.e. fartlek training, giving some resistance training, i.e. basic sets. And then it's also talking about adaptations as necessary. So that's why it's important that on each program card, you fill out the adaptations and alternatives box. PD5 applied the principles of training to help achieve the client's short, medium, and long-term goals. And again, this relates back down to each program card. What's on the program card? Does it relate to what you've got in the client profile? PD6 and PD7 agreed the demands of the program, agreed a timetable of sessions. Okay, This comes down to the client needing to sign the justification and signing the client profile. So where you've got, after the profile and the goals, I've said make sure the client puts their name there, and they can do it electronically. Make sure their name is there, because if it isn't there, then you can clearly see it's not here in the criteria. Then you need to resubmit the case study, obviously. And that would be terrible if it just didn't have a name on it, wouldn't it? PD8, arrange suitable dates for program review. That goes on the goal page. Remember, we talked about reviews for the goals. PD9, on each program card, it asks you where you're going to be doing it and what you're going to be using. So again, gym, remember, free weights, etc. And also including the use of environments not designed for exercise. That relates to the last section we just talked about now, adding these exercises in that the client can do when they're not in the gym with you. So as long as you've filled everything out, you can't really fail with it, to be quite honest. Okay. Well, depends on what you've got in there, of course. Recorded plans in a format that help the client and others involved to implement the program. So again, if you gave the card to me, I should be able to take it to your client and deliver it without any hesitation whatsoever. We should be able to pick the card up and say, yes, this is great, this is what you've got. PD11 identified suitable training alternatives and appropriate training systems for sessions not designed in the program card. And again, that goes back to the previous section we just talked about. This one here, exercise that you give them when they're not with you in the gym, or they're at home, or in the office, or outdoors. You're aiming to get a pass in that box there, okay? If in the event of something didn't pass, your assessor would give you some feedback, quite detailed feedback. They relate it to the criteria here, and they tell you exactly what you need to do to pass it next time. Please take on board any feedback. It's done with the best intention, obviously. Make sure your name goes on every document as appropriate. Okay, got another sheet here. So the next one, this is about the program management, the adaptations and the evaluations. Okay, so again, on the program card, you give some alternatives to the programs and exercises. Okay, that's there twice. So that's a typo. Okay, so that's just once there. So PM1, PM2. So shouldn't be. We'll just say PM2 shouldn't be there. Monitor the client's progress using appropriate methods. This comes down to the evaluations. Okay, remember you've written 3 detailed evaluations. The client gives their opinions on the programs. Remember that we asked them to give you feedback on it. You reviewed the client's progress against the goals, so you evaluated them, remember, in terms of effectiveness of the exercises, and you gave some review outcomes with the clients too. Accurate recorded review outcomes, that goes back to your goals as well. You give some adaptations, progressions, alternatives on each program card as required. Record any changes. Remember, the program cards will change slightly based upon your evaluation, and the effectiveness of adaptations, and update the program as necessary. This comes back down to changing the program card as required based upon your evaluations. You'll get a date in there, the assessor marks it, and again they'll give you the pass mark in the outcome. Then the final bit too, they will give you a tick in the box relevant to pass or refer. It won't refer, it will be a pass, of course. Now, on this section here, it says knowledge questions required. Okay, if you're doing it face to face, the assessor might say to you, ask you some questions with regards to your case study. However, it doesn't mean you're going to pass just because you've answered a question correctly. Face to face, they might not pass it and ask you some questions. However, if it hasn't passed, there's a reason why it hasn't passed, and the questions will be answered for the next time you resubmit. So basically, where it says knowledge questions required, face to face, you might be asked some questions relating around the case study. Just because you answer the questions correctly doesn't mean to say you've passed, and likewise, if there are no questions asked, that doesn't mean anything either. Okay, if in the unfortunate event of you not passing the case study when you submit it online, then you don't get any. The knowledge questions will be asked anyway in the feedback here. They'll give you some information here on what needs to be done in order to pass. Okay, it will all be successful though, I'm sure. So just to recap, make sure everything is filled out. Make sure that your name and the client's name goes on every section. Make sure you justify absolutely everything. Make sure that you're not going to write NA in any box, because NA means not allowed. Very best of luck with your case study, people. Thank you.